apparently some people were mad. I don't know. I have no idea why they would be mad at that. I only said the truth, and I think they know I did.
Wow.
What's up, everybody? Michael Stephenson here, back for another video. You are currently watching my entertainment industry series. Again, I ask that if you have not watched my previous videos, that you please go back and do. I'm trying to do these videos in a sequential order, meaning that I build on the things that I say in each video. So I've established some previous videos in which I sort of establish a lingo or language for the channel. So if you're not, or if you have not seen those videos, you might not be able to understand some of the things that I'm about to say in this video. But to be fair, getting into this video, you guys see the title. I'm sure some of you think that it's clickbait. It's not really clickbait. Like, I actually do feel this way. I feel like, as an aside, I feel like clickbait usually is supposed to be a video to where the poster does not actually believe what it is that they're saying. I believe this, and I'm going to make a case very strongly for this. So some of you are probably here because you maybe wanted a Dune review. This is a Dune Part 2 review. This is not that. Some of you are probably here because you got really kind of mad at what I did with my previous Dune videos, in which I said that Dune Part 2 will probably suck or stink. And apparently, yeah, there were quite a few people who did not like that I said that. Number one, I don't care. Number two, look, I did not even go in on the actual movie as much as some people probably thought that I did. Like, I really didn't. I was not actually that tough on the movie. In fact, my channel is not really that tough of a channel. As I said, I am not somebody like the Critical Drinker or Screen Rant or any of these other channels where, you know, they really go in on a lot of these movies and television shows that are coming out. I try to take a more measured approach. I try to dig into the details of things a little bit more and explain out why exactly it is that I feel the way that I do, as opposed to just saying, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I try to take it from a more, I guess, academic almost kind of approach. Okay. So for those of you who did watch those videos, and number one, most of you said that, oh my God, this video is way too long. No way I'm watching that. And you are right. Like I said, I mentioned in the beginning of those videos, the Dune Probably Sucks videos, that yes, these videos are going to be super long. It's why I divided it in two, because I had about 2.5 hours of footage that I wanted to do. And if you can believe it, I trimmed it down to just 2 hours, 2 1-hour videos, and I actually cut a whole lot of footage, even from those videos, and even when they were sped up. It seems like I overdosed talking on that movie. And yet here I am again with another one. This is not going to be the same sort of thing, though. I am going to be comparing it to this other movie, as you see, Captain Marvel, and going into why they are basically the same movie. So brace yourselves. If you hated the first 2 videos, number one, if you sat through both of them all the way, I applaud you. Thank you for sitting all the way through them. I know that 2 hours is a long time, but again, you are probably going to, number one, you're probably a fan of Dune, which means that you're probably going to spend somewhere around 3 hours sitting through Dune Part 2 sometime within the next week or 2, or maybe even 3 if you are a super late movie goer, okay? So, what then do I have to say about this? Oh, God. Well, I hate to say it, but one of the reasons why I'm comparing these 2 movies is not because they actually are the same, but also because of the fact that I hate the whole idea that one movie gets a lot of praise, seemingly, but the other one gets a lot of clowning and trolling, essentially from the same group of people. It's very bizarre to me, but you read it right. Dune Part 1, at least. Dune Part 1, Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 1 is practically the exact same movie as Captain Marvel. So where to begin with this? Well, let's go through it. The first thing that we are going to start with is that we have to start with just, I guess, maybe the structure of the movie or the character arc of the movie. No. Let's start with the actual just sort of points of the movie. So we begin basically both movies focused on one particular character. Yes, I know in the book, Dune, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. This is another thing. Please do not, in any way, shape, or form, try to give me or try to defend Dune Part 1 with the Lost effect. Okay, I just don't want to hear it. I don't want, and again, if you don't know what that is, I have a video. It's much shorter than most of my other videos where I talk about the Lost effect. I don't want to hear anything about the book. I don't want to hear anything about, oh, but in the book, I don't care. I don't. Yes, I have read the book. Yes, I've read the sequel, Dune Messiah. And as I said, I got a little bit into Children of Dune. I don't care. I don't want to hear anything about that. So when we first start both of these movies, we're looking at a fairly young character, one guy, one girl, and both of them are having what? Both of them are having some kind of dreams in which they are either remembering something or it's a premonition, right? So, and they're both having these dreams to where they're not really sure what's going on. It's just sort of memories kind of coming in or things just kind of sliding into their mind. They have no idea what actually is going on. But we know as an audience that, oh, these scenes, these visions, these clips, whatever they are going to come in and they're going to be more important in the story later on. This is the first similarity that sets both films up as essentially the same film. As soon as they get out of those visions, what happens? They are greeted in some ways by a mentor kind of character. We have Paul, who is greeted by his mother, Jessica, and then we have Carol, who is greeted by what is his actual name? Hold on, as an aside, if you've actually watched some of my previous videos, you will know that I am actually fairly terrible with character names, especially character names that aren't really that important to me. I know he's important to the story, but I really didn't care about his character. Like, I'm just keeping it real with y'all. Jude Law's character, I can't remember his actual name, right? But didn't she think that he was Marvel before finding out that Annette Bening, she was Marvel? Am I wrong on that? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, we're gonna move on. But both of them, they play that role of, oh, we're going to be the character who sort of stands in and who kind of mentors the main character, the protagonist or hero or whatever you want to call both of them, right? And what happens? They each have to, in some way, shape, or form, use their powers almost immediately in some way. Carol has to fight Jude Law's character. Paul has to use the voice on his mom, etc., etc. Basically, both characters, somehow, some way, and at various points within the movie, within the narrative, they have to kind of deal with an entity that is, in some way, shape, or form, kind of ruling over their lives. Like, yes, you could say that Paul Atreides having to deal with, he has to do the whole mind killer box thing. What did they call that? Wait a minute. Did the box actually have a name in the book? Because I can't remember if the box had the name in the book or anything. I just remember he was in his thoughts talking about, fear's the mind killer, blah, blah, blah. But as he was looking at the river. But both of them have this shadowy either organization or entity or person or whatever that they have almost no real knowledge about, that somehow seems to be directing their lives in some way, shape, or form. Paul, of course, has the Bene Gesserit, the Bene Gesserit. Carol has, what is it, the entity or the central intelligence? I can't even remember what they call that, and I also don't care. But they have that sort of giving her guidance, sort of telling her what she should do, what she needs to do, all of these things that they basically follow it almost like it's a god or a religion. Now, yes, the sisterhood, Bene Gesserit sisterhood, is far more complicated than just like an actual religion like Catholicism or name any religion. They're a little bit more complicated than that, but the comparison is pretty on par. It's pretty on the same level because the entity or the central intelligence kind of directs a lot of things that the Kree do, and it basically pushes them into various wars. It pushes them to conquer other lands, etc., etc. it like a god, as I just said. So then this is when the different stories, they still converge, but they have the slightest of tweaks to them to make them slightly different from each other. Number one, there is no spice in this story, right? They just kind of don't care. Although you can make an argument, I'm actually not going to compare the Marvels to Dune Part 2, mainly because I'm not going to be seeing Dune Part 2 for a while. I'm not seeing it in theaters, sorry, but I'm not. I can't waste my money and my time doing that. But I will let you guys in on a secret right now, and this will probably be sometime next month. So hold on to your britches right now, because it might blow your mind, but the Marvels and Spider-Man No Way Home are essentially the exact same movie as well. I just couch that in your mind for right now. If you're gonna rage, save your rage for when the video comes out, okay? Subscribe too. But anyways, you could make a claim that, well, you know, yeah, they didn't do this whole spice thing in Captain Marvel. They didn't do the whole spice / resource thing in Captain Marvel, but they totally did it in the Marvels. So, like, you know, they continued on with the same sort of stuff. At this point, some of you are probably hopping ahead in your own mind, and you're thinking about all the stuff that you probably saw in Captain Marvel, whether you liked it or disliked it, and you're thinking about all the stuff that you saw in Dune Part 1, whether you like that or dislike that, and you're probably going, holy crap, he might be onto something here. And at this point, you're probably thinking of the defense of, well, okay, sure, you could say that Captain Marvel probably is a film that is very similar to Dune Part 1, but Dune was already an established story, it was already a novel, and like I said before, Lost Effect, don't do that to me. Yes, there are, you can say that maybe Captain Marvel stole the structure of just the whole story of Dune in and of itself. And to be honest with you, I will give you that. I'll give it to you. Yeah, fine. But they could, there are at least probably 3 different ways that they could have done Dune differently, so that it didn't end up being, I cannot talk tonight, my goodness, so that it didn't end up being the same exact movie as Captain Marvel. Because we move on, and what happens? Both of them end up, both Paul and Captain end up essentially on an alien planet. Now, yes, I know, we know as the audience, and even Jude Law's character probably knows, that Carol is actually a human. But Carol doesn't know that. Carol doesn't know anything about Earth, because what? Her memories were erased. So when she lands on Earth, pretty much it might as well be an alien planet to her. She doesn't have, she doesn't recall ever being there. She has bits and pieces of her memory coming back, but she's not sure what's going on there. The same with Paul and his dreams about Shani. So all of this is just sort of mixed in and combobulated, and is it real? Is it not real? She doesn't know. All she knows is that she is there to do a job. As an aside, you know, no, this is not an aside, but this is just out of order. But another little nugget is, look at Captain Marvel's suit before she becomes legitimately Captain Marvel, and she's just running around as Carol Danvers, I think she's supposed to be like a Kree guard, defender, something special Kree team. What are the colors on her suit? Green and gray. Like, the colors on her suit are green and gray. And as I said in the previous Dune video, is that I don't know how many of you all actually caught it, because if you didn't go out to the theaters to actually see Dune, you might have mistakenly thought that Paul and the whole House Atreides was wearing black or even a dark gray most of the movie, when in fact even their still suits had bits and very subtle hints of a very dark green. It's like a very dark emerald green. So they're even wearing suits that are similar to each other. Speaking of the suit, for some reason, both of them wear full body suits that they in some ways play an important part into the story. But admittedly, with Carol, it's less of an importance. Like, you don't really ever understand the importance of her suit or why she even has one to begin with. Like, yes, you can understand why she has it when she's part of the whole little squad, right? And she's going around and she's flying around there. But from what we understand of Carol, And what we see in the Marvels and even in, was it Avengers Endgame, Carol can fly through space without having to have any sort of helmet or anything on. I mean, she wears it sometimes, sure, but she doesn't really need that. So I'm thinking, like, does she actually even need the suit? But in any case, the suit somehow plays a fairly important role just in the dress of how, like, just in look of the character, right? Because she's very rarely seen without her suit on. Most of the times when she is seen without her suit on, it's either a flashback or she's trying to go incognito undercover. I don't know. I digress. All I'm saying is that the suits are fairly similar as well. Although, let's keep it real, we have to give the nod to Captain Marvel / Carol Danvers in this case, because her suit is actually something that you would potentially want to wear out to Halloween. Whether it's the green suit or the actual Captain Marvel suit with the beautiful blue and red colors and gold colors. I digress. She lands on this alien planet, and what is she doing? What is she chasing down? She's chasing down the Skrull. Now, who are the Skrull? Come on, let's keep it real. The Skrull are to the Fremen in the same way that the Kree are to the Harkonnen. Like, there's almost no difference. Practically, there legitimately practically is almost no difference, like, at all. Because think about it. Carol Danvers is lied to for, well, how long was she, see, that's another thing. How long was she separated? Now, I could have looked that up, but I didn't want to. But how long was she gone? They erased her memory. How long between then and returning back to Earth was it? Do y'all know? Was it a year or two? I don't know, because obviously the little girl is still a little girl, so it couldn't have been that long, right? But in any case, she is lied to for most of her life. And if you remember in Dune Part 1, one of the things that Paul was learning about the Fremen is from those little cassette, oh boy, date myself there, aren't I? One of those little recordings that he was learning about the Fremen when, I guess when they were, before they left, maybe a little bit after they left too, and landed on Arrakis. One of them said, oh, the Fremen are not to be trusted. They are a violent people. They will hide and try to blend into the desert, etc., etc. How is that not exactly similar to what was told to Captain Marvel about the Skrull? Like, the Skrull are these terrible people. You can't trust them. They were the ones to start the war with the Kree. All of this nonsense. Are y'all seeing it? Are y'all seeing it at this point that these are the same movies? The same movies? Then somewhere halfway through the movie, of course, Paul is like, I don't know if the Fremen are really that bad of people. And he just sort of knows stuff about the Fremen. And he's just like, The worst thing to me is that in both movies, and this, I talked about this some in a little bit in my character building video, if you guys want to go watch that, because I use Captain Marvel as the example for the character building. But I knew that I was going to do this video as well. One of the reasons why I liked Captain Marvel, but I liked it, it was, I wasn't in love with it. And one of the reasons is because she's not really a character. But neither is Paul. That's the problem. Paul Atreides is also not really a character. The basic building blocks of a character are not met in either one of these two characters that lead their movies. You have almost no clue on as to what they actually care about beyond, well, really anything. Like, why is Captain Marvel doing most of what she's doing? And this, of course, also leads to the fact that neither of these movies actually had legitimate plots. They didn't. Like, I hate to say that, but I've already said it about Dune Part 1. Dune Part 1 suffered from not having a plot. That feeling that a lot of people felt, even if you loved the book, but you went into the movie and you saw the movie, and then after the movie, you had that feeling of, wow, it felt like a whole lot of stuff happened in that movie. But at the same time, you had the paradoxical feeling that at the same time, it didn't seem like almost anything happened in the movie. That's because the movie didn't have a plot, and it gave you that feeling of, I feel like everything happened, and at the same time, nothing happened. Phone cut out again. I apologize. I almost forgot where I was, But I think I was where Paul, though, even though he's told that the Harkonnen are just brutal people and everything, the Harkonnen are really not within the movie, and he really doesn't experience a whole lot of that throughout the film until that one thing happens very late into the film. Similarly, with Carol, she's around the Kree and she thinks that she's part Kree, but she doesn't really, once she starts learning that, yeah, the Kree are actually the bad guys, the Kree really aren't around for like the majority of the movie. Not really. Yes, there is a climax at the end in which a lot of Kree show up, but not, it's not, they are, I think one of the reasons why both films feel sort of weird is because, again, the enemy that they are fighting is an enemy that they don't have any proximity to, right? There's no closeness there in almost any way, shape, or form. At least with Thanos, one of the great things that they did with Thanos, the Avengers did with Thanos, is that they gave us proximity because we knew that even though Thanos hadn't interacted with most of the other Avengers, he had interacted with and had a closeness with both Nebula and Gamora, both of them, right? So that gave us a certain proximity to it, to where it felt close. Captain Marvel and Paul Atreides, there's never fully a closeness there. Now, yes, Captain Marvel has a closeness with Jude Law, and she has been spending time with the Kree. But once she's on Earth, it's just like, it just feels weird. It feels different, right? With the enemy being way out there. Speaking of, both Baron Harkonnen and Ronan the Accuser, both of them don't really have that much of a role. Number one, yes, you can say that Ronan is pretty much the head guy for the Kree. Like you can pretty much say that. It's funny too, though, because again, and as an aside, this sort of just, I don't know if it freaks me out or creeps me out, or it's just weird. It's just off-putting to me. The fact that somehow the Kree are like this multi-racial, they're like this multi-racial race of aliens. Like, I thought all Kree were always supposed to be blue. Why is it that some Kree are blue and then some are just like, we're just gonna be whatever color we want? I get it because we as humans are different colors, obviously, but it just feels weird because I thought that in the comics they were always blue. And so having Ronan be just super blue dude, and then the next movie, Darbin, she's like, yeah, I'm just a black woman. It's so bizarre, man. I don't know. It just weirds me out. But that's an aside. But anyway, they are blue and the Harkonnen are white. So it's not like, and I'm, y'all know the kind of whiteness that I mean. Like, they are like super pale albino, like white. So they even have that thing going on for them. But Ronan just sort of sits back and he has a few scenes here and there. And even when he sees Captain Marvel out there doing her thing at the very end, he's just standing there like, with the universal weapon or whatever it is, the universal rod, whatever. He's just standing there like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do anything for right now. It just leaves. It's like, I guess. We shouldn't try to defeat her or anything. And speaking of which, both Paul and Captain Marvel have been, weirdly enough, like genetically engineered, bioengineered. They are not beings. They are no longer beings, at least. Carol, she used to be a regular human, but she's not anymore, right? They are no longer beings that just exist as people. Both of them have some sort of special powers that were quite literally engineered into them. So yes, Carol has the power of the Tesseract. When the ship blew up, when Marvel's ship actually blew up, Tesseract blew up with it, got into her DNA, all that stuff. But remember, she also is infused with Kree blood. So how is that not like what the Bene Gesserit did? I know y'all gonna jump on me for the pronunciation of that, but how is that not like what the Sisterhood has done with Paul? They've been bioengineering for a very long time to try to find the one, so to speak. It's almost the same thing, and I hated how they did it because in both movies, they basically had that as the sole characteristic of them in some instance. Again, they didn't bother to build out the rest of the character for either of these characters. So you're kind of left with, yeah, they're just supposed to be special. All right, they're supposed to be special. Cool. Moving on. So then you go to, oh my God, like I said, both movies are pretty much the exact same. They're the exact same. I just don't know what else to say. You could talk about the ending, in which, again, you have a character that is the whole time the hero has been thinking that this character is actually going to be a friend, but it turns out that this character is an enemy. You have Captain Marvel. She's running around pretty much Earth, or this new alien planet that she's on, alien quote unquote planet that she's on, with an older person who's sort of kind of trying to guide her, but at the same time he has no idea what the heck he's doing either. So he's just sort of following her lead, and she's like, oh, I guess I know what I'm doing. And he's like, really? And she's like, yeah, no, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm just freestyling here. And so how is that not the same thing with Paul and Jessica? Like, Paul is just out there like, it's supposed to be a station here out in the middle of nowhere, and oh, we're supposed to just go here, and let's go to the desert again, and let's fly around in a tornado. It's just random nonsense that happens in both films. Like, basically random nonsense that happens in both films. They learn a few things and they put it together, and they're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. God, you even have the creature, right? The creatures that each one of them befriend. Now, to be fair, Paul doesn't really befriend or ride the worm until the second one, but there's already stuff that was set up as foreshadowing. It's one of the few things that I feel like Dune Part 1 actually did well, foreshadowing the worm. That was about one of the few things. Few things. But the worm, to me, is almost exactly like the flufferkin, whatever it is, the cat from Captain Marvel. Look at, they're both creatures, so they don't really talk. They both, weirdly enough, have a power, and their power is just eating things, like swallowing things whole. That's it. That's the whole power. That's all that you need to be scared of. Now, of course, the worm is played for dramatic effect, and the cat is played for humorous effect, but that keeps in line with the not a hard rule nor even a fast rule. But, well, no, it is a fast rule. It's not a hard rule, but it's a fast rule. That in most movies, when something is huge, when something is really, really big, it's played for dramatic effect. When something is super small, it tends to be played for comedic effect. The best example that I can give is the original Men in Black, when Jay, Will Smith's character, Agent J, is given that tiny gun, right? And it's played for comedic effect, but it's super duper powerful. He shoots it once, and he explodes backwards. Comedic effect. They do that all the time in films, but they literally have the exact same power, just swallowing stuff whole. That their power is eating, the power of eating. But yeah, even that's the same. You have other characters to where you can sort of fill them in. They sort of double for one or two characters, right? Rambo, not Monica, but her mother, Carol's best friend. She sort of doubles in for a little bit of Duncan, Idaho, but also a little bit of Gurney, right? There's some other ones that sort of double in as Idaho and Gurney as well. And the end fight, as I was just saying, they both have to fight somebody who is originally they thought was a friend, but he sort of turned into an enemy. Let's keep it real. Paul being challenged and the dude being so gung-ho to want to kill him is a little bit weird, but happened in the book, so we have to let it go. But yeah, there's so many similarities between these movies. It's unreal. I could go on and name some more, but this video is already getting a little long. The only reason why I'm doing this is because of the fact that some of the criticism surrounding some of the female characters that we have had in cinema as of late has kind of gotten on my nerves. Now, I mention this because March was going to be filled with two things. It was going to be filled with in March, I was going to start in on the sex/gender stuff. So we were going to talk about how the differences between men and women, how we view stories, how we consume stories, and just the general differences that we need to be aware of when we're talking about various films and television. And yeah, it goes beyond the Bechdel test or how men write women, et cetera, et cetera. It goes beyond those usual talking points. I was going to be doing that along with Marvel, but I'm going to hold off on that and push that back a little bit because I have some irons in the fire, so to speak. And I don't want to offend anybody just yet because it was, oh boy, there's going to be some things that everybody's going to be kind of upset about when I say what I have to say, but they're truthful things. You just have to, they're truthful. But I was getting kind of tired of the fact that when you look at these female characters, whether it's Captain Marvel or it's Rey from Star Wars, they are pretty much the exact same as the male character. There's almost no difference between Paul Atreides, or you could throw in Harry Potter, you could throw in Neo from the Matrix, you could throw in Luke Skywalker from the original Star Wars. Now, yes, Luke, well, let me say it first, but there's almost no difference between them and Captain Marvel or Rey. All of them are Mary Sue's or Marty Stew's. Like, they all are. They all just randomly can do amazing stuff. And there's little explanation as to why they are given a amazing parentage or whatever. They can just do, they just are heroes pretty much from jump. They just are. And the only difference that I can see, the only two differences that I can see, of course, the first one is that, the dudes are dudes, right? Paul, Neo, Harry, etc. They are all guys. They're dudes, boys, men, males. They are male. So there is some sexism out there. Or the second reason is because basically all of them, unlike Captain Marvel and unlike Rey, have a herald, a heralder coming before them. They have somebody, usually another dude, who comes along and at some point in history came along and said, oh yeah, just so y'all know, there's going to be a random guy, usually a white guy, not going with the race things yet, but that the race is last, but let's keep it real. Usually a white guy, he's going to come along and he's just going to know how to do everything, y'all. He's just going to know how to do everything. And somehow the audience is completely okay with that. Like, well, as long as you told us that this guy is going to come along and be able to just randomly know how to do everything naturally, we're okay with that. But as soon as a woman comes along and knows how to do stuff just randomly, we don't like it because you didn't tell us that woman was coming along. You didn't tell us anything. She's not prophesied. Why does she know how to wield a lightsaber? Now, yes, you can argue that, well, Luke wasn't prophesied either. But let's keep it real fresh and funky. They were still looking for, even that far into the war, they were still looking for someone who was actually going to legitimately balance the Force, since Anakin/Darth turned out not to be that dude, apparently. And, yes, you can make the argument that he technically was the one to balance the Force, which thematics, all that stuff, we're not going to go into it. I have a whole Star Wars series. But those are the only two differences. You can either pick, like, yeah, maybe I am just a sexist because I really don't like the whole Captain Marvel thing, but I love Dune Part 1. They're the same movie. Like, they have such minute differences to them that it's like, it's almost no real, it's not even worth mentioning the minute differences. Like, oh, well, but this one's on a desert planet and that one's on Earth. So what? The same movie. If you loved one but then hated the other, like, I can see if you felt sort of tepid about both of them. And I honestly felt super tepid about Dune Part 1. But I kind of liked Captain Marvel a little bit more. And now, let me be clear, Captain Marvel made its money. It really legitimately made money. But we also remember we're in the Avatar era. So just because a movie made money does not mean that the movie is actually good and that people legitimately liked it. But if you if you had an extreme to where you really, really loved one, then I could see and understand you really, really loving Captain Marvel. I can't see and understand you really, really loving Dune Part 1, but hating Captain Marvel. I just can't. There's the same movie. Like, even when you take into consideration, and this is why I can see you loving Captain Marvel, but not really liking Dune, because Captain Marvel at least moves quickly. It has a great pace. It also has good timing. Yes, the two are different. It moves. It moves. And of course, it's bright and it's colorful. Whereas Dune, there's a lot of slowness. There seems like a lot of silence, and there's not a whole lot explained very well. But I just can't see you picking Dune over Captain Marvel for almost any reason, with the exception of, well, I just really love the source material more, or those other two reasons that I said. Hey, you might be I, the same movie, the same movie. You can list some things that are similar below, and as I said, I give you credit, but be not fooled. No, you don't have to go, oh, well, they're similar movies because both of them have the hero's journey in them. Like, no, 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 no. Dune Part 1 is not similar to, God, I don't know. I mean, Dune Part 1 is just not similar to a whole bunch of movies, right? Like, it's not similar to a whole bunch of different movies. And just because a story has or does not have the hero's journey, which again, I would argue that neither of them do. That's another problem with the story. They don't have, like, at least Captain Marvel has somewhat of a journey, but because there is no end goal, you can't fully call it a journey, and you can't fully say that it has a plot. So neither of them have a complete hero's journey in them, nor do they have a complete journey in them. And yet they both are very similar movies. It just, I don't know, man. Y'all leave y'all comments below. What do you think? Rewatch both of those movies if you can, and see if you can see what I'm seeing, the similarities and the few differences that there are, because it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. I didn't even get to some of the other similarities that they have. Anyways, I will see you guys in another video. And I don't have a sign off. Hey everybody. So while I don't have an official sign off yet, I guess I should do the whole please like, comment, share, and if you so desire and you want to see more, subscribe. But more importantly, I will ask that you please, please, please go and purchase one of my books. They are mostly ebooks, and pretty much they are all under $10. See if any of my work is actually any good, if it lives up to any of the things that I'm talking about here on my channel, specifically with the entertainment industry videos. So please go purchase my books. All of my links are down below. Thank you.